everybody. Welcome back to RGR Football on YouTube. This is Daniel Harms. And for those of you that aren't already, there is a subscription or subscribe button right down here on the right side of your screen. Go ahead and click that. You'll get updated on everything that Ryan and I do. It'll come up on the left side of your YouTube page and all the things you're subscribed to. And next to that sub button, there's a bell notification. Every time that we upload a new video to the channel, you will get notified directly. And that'll keep you updated on everything that we've got going on week in and week out. There's probably 4+ videos that Ryan and I put out every week. So we're doing a lot of content for you guys. And this video actually comes from a fan suggestion of looking at some of the backups that the Chiefs might have to deal with this year with, COVID preventing training camps and getting in proper game shape. There's bound to be more injuries this season. That's definitely something that Ryan and I have talked about multiple times. And I don't think it's going to just go away like that. I think that there's going to be injuries early in the season, and we're going to see more players that don't necessarily get a lot of extra playing time. We're going to get that playing time. So this week, we're going to look at the players that are going to come in outside of the starters in Frank Clark and Alex Okafor on the defensive end side of the football. And we assume that Clark and Okafor will start because Okafor just got that contract restructure. Obviously, Frank is the best defensive end on the team, and I think that those two are definitely entrenched right now as the starters. And they've got 3 guys that I think will have a very good rotation behind them, and then we could see maybe either a Tim Ward sighting or a Demone Harris. Demone, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments here on that. He played, in last year and played in the playoffs as well, just not the Super Bowl. So he's got some playing experience under his belt, Harris does, and that could definitely help him make the roster. I think he'll be the 6th guy. But these 3 players are going to be the ones that we see the most often. Definitely, K-Pass, Breeland Speaks, and Taco Charlton. Now, K-Pass and Taco are the two guys that are probably going to get the most play, but all 3 of them have versatility to play on the outside and in the inside. So this is going to help them, the defensive coordinator and all that staff, keep everybody on the inside fresh and healthy for as long as possible. And I think that's extremely, key to keeping everyone from getting those early injuries in the season, to get into that game shape, to help their body acclimate properly, which they're going to definitely need this season. And I know that a lot of people are down on Breeland Speaks. We don't know really what he's going to look like in this defense. And even though he did have some reps in the preseason last year, he was overweight. So those reps that I'm going to be showing you from his tape last year during the preseason, you're going to definitely see some of the lethargicness from his body type. But I don't know if you've seen his physique as of Tuesday. He's definitely in shape to play football as a defensive end and a guy that can come down inside and play and rush from anywhere. So these 3 guys are going to get a lot of work on the outside, on the inside, and that's what Spags likes to do. So without any further ado, we are going to jump in, and I want to start with K-Pass, just because he's going to have the most reps outside of Alex Okafor. I think he's going to come in on passing downs for Okafor just because he's got that playing experience last year. I think he started 8 games and he played really well. He had a much better season than I think people had anticipated because he didn't get much playing time under Bob Sutton. But Brennan Daly comes in, he takes him under his wing, really kind of molds him into this pass rusher and defensive end. Really, he's an all-around player now. He's still not complete, which is what you would expect from a guy who was extremely raw coming out of Villanova. And this kind of athlete, his body type, they like to rush him from the inside, on the outside. They like to play him all over the defensive line. He's got that versatility and ability to make plays on every different play wherever he's lined up. So right here, he's going to be up against George Kittle and Joe Staley, which a double team is not exactly what you want to see from anybody on this offensive line from these two. You have Kittle and Staley, who are 2 really good blockers, and K-Pass still rounding into shape. So we are going to start this. All right. Right here, obviously, you've got Dan Sorensen, and this is, excuse me, I can see him, Damian Wilson. I can see him in my brain, and I just couldn't say his name. It's Damian Wilson. Okay, so this double is coming here. The idea for this double team from Kittle to Staley is to allow Staley to eventually take over completely, to turn him to the inside and get Staley's butt this way to allow for Mostert to get outside. And then they're going to have a wide receiver come down block on Sorensen, and that's going to allow Kittle to hopefully get through the hole and lead block. Now, the biggest problem with that's going to end up being K-Pass. He is going to do a really good job of taking on this block, and we're going to see that right here starting off the play. And like I said, the idea is that Kittle can help push him into Joe Staley's control. And right here, you're going to see he's already turned sideways, which is not a great position to be in for a defensive end. Now, this is where we get a little bit of muddled. That wide receiver's coming down and blocking on Sorensen, and K-Pass is trying to fight through his own guy, this wide receiver, Kittle, and Staley, who's trying to get around him to block. And this is the more impressive thing for me, is that K-Pass does not give up. He's got an extremely high motor, and that's something that I don't think people really see on tape, or excuse me, not on tape, but in just regular watching of the game. You see him just kind of pop up every now and then, but his motor runs hot, and here he does a lot of great work to finally rip underneath that block right there. His left inside arm is coming underneath of the block of Joe Staley, because he can never get around to lead block here. And then we have this fuddling mess of players right here. But K-Pass does an absolute great job to flash outside and force Mostert back inside. He almost gets that tackle right there, but the idea, obviously, as a defensive end is to not let that running back get outside, and he does a very, very good job of fighting through that double and then the block from Staley to get an attempt at a tackle on Mostert and then force him back inside to those two waiting linebackers. And then, this play goes for no gain, and that's what you really want. And the idea for a guy like K-Pass, who didn't have much playing experience coming into this year, and then getting to see him come in and then mold, we got to see him do the things that we all thought he would do with a proper coaching staff. And it speaks to the level of determination and play style that he has, and the abilities that K-Pass possesses in his arsenal, just being able to finally unleash all of that in this last season. And getting to see him develop as a run defender and a pass rusher has really been something special to me. And that's definitely going to be an area that he gets more attention this season. I think he's going to be used more as a pass rusher. As long as Okafor stays healthy, I think he'll be more of a run-down player, and then they'll bring other guys like K-Pass off the bench to come in for him. Now, this is the playoff game against the Titans, and we can see from that those little bubble flashes that were on the screen, K-Pass is lined up right here on the inside next to Frank Clark, which is it's really excellent for him because it takes the attention off of him a little bit. And then they're also going to blitz. Let's see here. They're going to have Ben Neiman delay a little bit and then come down here, which will take the attention of the running back. So you have obviously Clark coming out here, and then that leaves K-Pass one-on-one with this interior offensive lineman, that guard right there, which is what you want for a pass rusher that is a defensive end coming into the inside and getting having that one-on-one matchup with an inferior player, as it would seem, blocking what would be a defensive end. So this is another excellent play design for his motor. You get to see him just fight consistently through contact and work work his arms and everything underneath around blocking. I know this flag pole, the pole gets in the way a little bit. So what you can see right here is this block. The lineman is trying to get lateral with K-Pass, but he doesn't have the ability to get deep enough, especially because he thinks he's going to have Damian Lewis, or Lewis here, not Damian Lewis. It's Dion Lewis to block on the inside here. But that pressure from Ben Neiman is going to allow K-Pass to get underneath the block and then finally rip underneath right here. He's just trying to work his arms. He keeps his outside arm free, which is what you want to do for stopping the run and getting to the passer, trying to get around anybody. You want to keep that arm free to help, movement and grabbing and stuff like that. So he's going to rush around and get underneath and finally get onto Ryan Tannehill for the sack. And he had I think he had 4 sacks during the season, 2 against Oakland and 2 against the Packers. So, and the ones against the Packers were all about him running down Aaron Rodgers, which was one of the more impressive things. I know Aaron Rodgers is a little bit old, but he's definitely still fleet of foot and can get out and run. So watching K-Pass do that was pretty awesome. But this is the thing that I thought was more impressive. His play in the playoffs was really stellar, and it goes to show you, like I've been saying about this coaching staff, is they got their hands on a ball of clay really in K-Pass, and they were able to develop him into something that we hadn't seen under Bob Sutton. And that's really what it comes down to, is getting these young players with athletic ability and all of these different tools at their disposal and getting them into the proper play style and allowing K-Pass to rush from the inside and the outside. It sets up matchup problems all over the offensive line that they have to deal with, especially when you have guys like Frank Clark, who's fully healthy in this game, coming off the edge. It takes some of that attention. So I think that K-Pass is going to come into, a better situation in terms of having probably a fully healthy Alex Okafor. I think they're going to play Chris Jones on the outside a little bit here and there, a fully healthy Frank Clark, and that's going to take attention off of him in pass rush situations. We hopefully take that next step and become a more well-rounded pass rusher and then run defender. I think he's definitely got that going for him. So we're going to move on to a guy who I thought that was going to get more playing time last year and was going to be able to show more of what he's capable of doing in a 4-3 defense than we saw as an outside linebacker with Bob Sutton. Unfortunately, he did suffer an injury last year and was unable to compete and really show us what he could do. And I can't use the preseason games from 2019. It's not allowed on YouTube, so thanks for that, guys. We're going to go back to 2018 to see a little bit of what he can offer. And I think that this is going to be a good insight into what he's doing this year, because we can combine a little bit of what he does on the ground here in 2018 with what I think we can project seeing him in 2020. He's I don't know about much lighter, but he's definitely slimmer and leaner than he was at any point in his professional career, possibly even his last year in college. He looks great, and I think that this is a really good opportunity for him to come in and be a contributor in this rotation. It's going to be the most comfortable he's been, and I do think that they're going to continue to stick with him being on an outside and inside rusher. They're going to put him at both spots throughout the defensive line at multiple areas, and he does have some coverage experience, if you guys remember from 2018 with Bob Sutton. So I guess they could technically do that with him too if they really wanted. But ideally, we're not going to want to see him dropping into coverage. It's not his strength. But this is really what he does well. And what I like about Breeland Speaks is this is 2018, and it's one of the very few times that we got to see him with his hand in the dirt right here down on this left tackle. And even though he's not the most explosive player I've ever seen, he definitely has it's a much better explosion out of a 3-point stance than it would be out of a 2-point stance for him. He just does not move well when he is standing up. That's just how most defenders are when they're hand in the dirt. They're bigger. They don't have as much, lateral mobility and agility to do that. So this is definitely his best trait. And when in pass rush, this is his move of choice. Now, we're going to slow it down a little bit just because, I know he moves a little bit slower to the naked eye than a lot of other guys, but he's definitely got some moves that I think are going to be useful. And, I get it's the Bengals, and the Bengals aren't great, but he's really good at his execution of this particular move, and it's really more of a cross chop. He engages with that inside left hand, and then he crosses the arms of the left tackle here just to get it rounded inside and allow his inside arm to then rip underneath right through there, like you can see there. And that's going to allow him to get free to Andy Dalton on the end here, which is, just allows him to get a QB hit. He gets the ball away quickly, so that wasn't ever going to be a sack there. But unless you're a D Ford character, and then maybe, yeah, because D Ford's a really, really fast defensive end. So those are really the only guys that are going to be able to get to the ball thrower in this amount of time. But like I said, the ability that he has to set up his cross chop, it works well. And I've seen him used it multiple times in the preseason last year as well to his success. And in 2018, it was the vast majority of his success in beating left tackles was of this cross chop. And I think that, slimming down a little bit is going to help him become a more well-rounded defensive end. If that's where I want to play him a little bit more, that's where I would play him a little bit more, especially at this leaner build that he's at. And I think that, we're going to see a little bit more success rate for him when he's pass rushing one-on-one. If he's on the field and he is in a pass rush situation, I would imagine they'd like to put him on the field with Frank Clark and Chris Jones. That way you can get him less attention and maybe get him more one-on-ones to have more success. And ideally, that's what you want in any of these situations with K-Pass, with him, and then next we'll talk about Taco Charlton. But you want to get them in ideal situations to make it easier for them so that they can become more effective in their pass rush situations and things like that. So he's a pretty decent cross chopper, and I think that he's got a good pass rush plan. It's not great in terms of multiple moves, but I think that he sets his sights on what he wants to do pre-snap, and instead of getting too caught up in the hesitation moves and stuff like that, he goes out, he executes it, he sets it up, and he executes it pretty well. So from that standpoint, I do like his cross chop and the execution of his pass rush. But being a defensive end who did stand up a bit too much in 2018, that's just because of Bob Sutton and his defense with outside linebackers. It's not easy for him to create good leverage points. When you're firing out of a stance, you're low, and you can use your hips to really engage an offensive lineman, or in this case, a tight end, a blocking tight end, to get off or to get in there, engaged, and move them which way you want to. So from this standpoint, it's not great for Breeland Speaks because that's just not the kind of player he is. He needs that extra explosion out of his stance to get into offensive linemen and tight ends to move them where he wants to. But this is a good example of his strength and being able to do something that a lot of other defensive ends don't normally do out of a 2-point stance and moving a guy like Gronk at the end of his career with New England, who was more of a blocking tight end. So you got this matchup out here. And that was what, like I said, it was what Gronk does. He was trusted to block defensive ends one-on-one whenever he needed to, and that was just what Bill Belichick wanted him to. And he's going to do a good job of initiating this block and trying to box out Breeland Speaks, but then you're going to see him take over and really extend those arms right there and get Gronk off of him completely. That's what you need to see from a stronger defensive end. And if you were able to jump out of a stance and really get up in there, it would have happened earlier. But the contact initiated by Gronk then allowed Breeland to finally get his bearings, get the strength, and then push him off. And right now, he's finding the football. You can see it. He's actually looking in the backfield at Sony Michel where he's going to be going. And that's going to be something that he still had to work on a little bit in 2018. The ball location was still developing. But from what I saw in his limited snaps in that season, granted there were at least 4 games he played the majority of them. So he definitely got some experience that year. He was able to locate the ball pretty well. And then he does a good job swimming over Gronk to get to the ball carrier. And I do enjoy, that part of his game. When he does find the football, he's actually quite effective at getting off of his blocks and disengaging and getting to the football. So that's an area that I like to see from a guy like Speaks, who's not going to be the most athletic defensive end on the field. But if you can figure out where the ball is, you can use your strength to get an offensive lineman or tight end off of you and then make a play on the football, wherever it is. That's going to lead you to a pretty decent success rate. And we don't really know what Breeland's going to be. He could be, a developmental player still. He could show some flashes this year, or he could come in and be a pretty productive piece. Now, production is going to be different based on how many snaps he gets, who's playing well around him. Obviously, they're not going to take Frank Clark off the field very much. So where they're going to pass rush him, where they're going to put him in and run stopping downs, they could even put him in along the 2 defensive tackle spots on pass rushing downs or even, running downs. I could think that he's versatile enough, and now that he's lost a little bit of that weight, more versatile on the outside to get a little bit more playing time. I think that this is his really make or break year with the Chiefs. I know he has one more year under his rookie contract, but that's probably going to be it after this season. If I were the Chiefs, I would probably cut him after this season if he's not going to be viable. And that's just how it works. But like I said, it's pretty fun to see him bench press guys like Gronk, he's a pretty strong guy. His blocking peak here, but so yeah, I think that he's got a chance. Like I said earlier in this to be a pretty good a piece for this defense. Not necessarily is going to be a high sack guy. He might get three to 5 sacks is somewhere I project him in throughout the season. I think 3 is probably ideal for him. 5 is high. So I'm not expecting too much out of him this season. Now we're going to go to a guy who I was actually really excited about coming out of college. I'm a Michigan fan, so I got to watch Frank Clark and Taco Charlton tear up tackles in college rather routinely. And Taco is one of the more athletic specimens you're going to see. He's 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", 260, 265 in that area, and he's just long. He has a very long reach. He can get into tackles and tight ends quickly with his arms and use his strength to bully guys at the point of attack. And, I was excited when the Chiefs brought him in just because I think that getting him into a winning team onto a team with his old teammate and Frank Clark is going to help shed some light on his career and help get him into a more, comfortable playing atmosphere. Last year on the Dolphins, that's not a great playing atmosphere. Losing culture, and I think that the Dolphins are going to be an extremely good team going forward. I really like Brian Flores. I think he already really is an excellent coach. He had most of his guys to buy in, but Taco just didn't seem to fit with that mentality. But the idea that Taco Charlton is a bust is just, it happens. You take a guy in the first round with that kind of athletic profile, and then he doesn't really pan out. Yeah, he's going to bust. But this is a chance for him to rejuvenate his career. He's got a 1-year deal in Kansas City on a team that, just won the Super Bowl with his old teammate. This is a good opportunity for him to refine that love of football and get back to the game. And one of the big things that I think he's going to bring to this football team is his ability to stop the run. He's actually a very underrated run stopper, and I think a lot of it has to do with that length of his. He's able to, like I said previously, use those arms to get inside of guys, and that can really help him in the run defense. And I'm showing you guys run stopping against tight ends, but a lot of times number 2 tight ends in the NFL are required to block, and they're usually extra offensive linemen. And the one thing that Taco Charlton does that I said Breeland Speaks has to work on is finding the football. You can see right now he's down right here on Dallas Goedert. His head's inside. He's already finding the football. As soon as he engages, he's able to find the football and go towards it. And that's instinct, and the ability to find it quickly is going to help you be a better run defender. So right here, he's just going to kind of throw off Goddard to the inside and allow himself to flash back outside. And as a defensive end, you want to keep that outside leverage to force the running back inside to where all the other defenders are. But you also have that opportunity if he decides to extend the play out, and especially in Taco's instance, he's a pretty fast guy for his size, and he can run those guys down. So he's going to force the running back inside here, and then he's going to be able to make that tackle. So that's something that he brings to this team that a lot of rotational defensive ends don't have. They don't have that kind of length. They don't have that kind of ball location ability. And it's not a special quality, but it's definitely a quality that you can use early on in your playing time to see the field better and to get tackles and kind of get some of those statistics to help you see the field more later in the season. So I like what he brings in terms of run defense. He's definitely got some strength to him, as you can see him throw off the tight end there and then finish that tackle and get the play done there. So, but as it would be, defensive ends are relatively overvalued because of their pass rush ability. And Frank Clark came over here for a 5-year, $100 million $100 million contract. Pass rush is becoming the most important part of a defensive end's, career. That's just how it's been. Sacks awards are pretty much won by sacks or interceptions in terms of, corners and defensive ends. So piling up sack figures are going to be important for guys that want to win those kind of awards. But on a team that you're rotating in and out of to keep everyone fresh, if you can do something well and set up the tackle or the tight end that you're going up against and get to the quarterback, that's really all that matters. You don't need to be super productive, but there's one thing I think that Taco Charlton brings to this team that can really help them get more turnovers than they have in the past, and that's his ability to get the football with his arms. I've already mentioned that he's very good at locating the football, but you're going to see him get inside this. The guys who were blocking him, the right tackle here and the tight end, he finds this little gap here just because they created a gap by moving Carson Wentz out of the pocket. And that it's just going to happen when you move an offensive line to one side. Gaps are going to form because different speeds, different rates of footwork, and who's going to be able to move faster, who's going to get in someone's way. All these different factors will make gaps form. Now, this outside defender here is going to force Carson Wentz back inside, and Taco's going to overrun him a little bit. But right there, you see his right hand is just going to hit that football, and he's going to strip it right out. That's something he did twice last year in over pursuit, just because of other defenders forcing the quarterback back inside. He was able to use his arms and his length to get his hand on the football. And that's something that you can utilize in this instance. You can also utilize when you're pass rushing and you're being forced around the pocket a little bit too deep. If you can get that inside hand inside onto that football, then you're going to find more fumbles. And that's an area that the Chiefs definitely need going forward, is producing more turnovers. They had a lot in 2018. They had a bunch of strip sacks in that sense, and that really kind of helped their terrible defense. But the Chiefs have a good defense, and if you can get more turnovers, then you can bump it up from a good to a great defense, and that will give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, and it's just a whole cycle that helps them get better. So Taco is going to provide that length and athleticism at the tight end position, and it's an area of need in terms of having that talent at defensive end. They definitely want to have those kind of players that have this specific profile that they've clearly coveted at defensive ends. Bigger, longer, and kind of physically fit guys like Frank Clark, Alex Okafor. These guys are big, they're long, they're bulky, they can stop the run, they can get out of the quarterback. So yeah, he's going to be able to come in and bring that tenacity, I think rejuvenated tenacity with Frank Clark. If they find themselves on the opposite sides of each other, that's really going to help both of them get better, and especially Taco find that fun in football again that I think he's been missing. So I think, going forward this season, the defensive end position is going to be in better hands than it was last year. We saw Damone Harris play a little bit too much down the stretch. They didn't have much depth. They had guys get injured, and, Clark didn't play fully healthy until the end of the season. So Harris was forced into playing time when he wasn't necessarily ready, but he got that playing experience. So I think we could also see him get that sixth spot. I think they might keep 6 defensive ends this year, and he could get that 6th spot and help in that rotation as well. But this is the backup situation for the Chiefs in the defensive end category, and I think they're pretty well off, especially with 2 guys who have starting experience in the NFL. Really 3 if you count Speaks, who was an outside linebacker. All 3 of the guys that we just watched have that playing experience. They have starting experience. K-Pass is coming along really well. I think he's going to be the next guy up, and Taco he's got the most upside out of all 3 in terms of his production and where he was taken in the draft, and all of those things culminate. I think he's got better odds to get better as long as he finds that fun and want to be better. So Speaks is that wild card. We don't know what he's going to be. I think that he's in really good hands with Brendan Daly. So I'm hoping that we get to see a lot more out of him this season. So I hope you guys like this video, and don't forget, you can find me at Arrowhead Guys. I write all my articles over there. I've got, I just did a wide receiver prediction for 2020. That's really going to help you guys with some fantasy issues too. So also, if you have any other guys that you want to see, just go ahead and leave them in the comment section. Ryan and I love to just hear what you guys have to say and want to do more videos that you guys want to see. So anything you guys got, just drop it down below. Hope you enjoyed it.